All right, so we're in the middle of a series right now, five-part series entitled Struggles, which is evidently is what I'm going through right now. I got limited voice today, allergy or something popped up. Anyway, we're talking about Jesus, having a Jesus relationship in a selfie-centered world. And if you missed last week, we talked about the issue that so many of us have in comparing ourselves to the people around us. The more we compare ourselves to what they have or what relationships they have or jobs, whatever, the more discontent we can become. We have to be careful about that. And social media is a big part of that because everybody looks like they're in a dream world. Everything's great and everything's wonderful in their life, and you look at that and think, man, my life's nothing like that, and they can really get you down. Today we're going to talk about the intimacy in relationships that we're called to have as followers of Jesus Christ. Now, social media can enhance some of those relationships. That's definitely true, but they can also rob us of some of the things that God has called us to in relationship. We can actually suffer in our relationships because of social media. Jesus in John 13, this is right after he washed the disciples' feet, and he was really showing them a display of service and love, and he's getting ready to go to the cross. He says to his disciples, "A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, just as I have loved you. You also are to love one another. By this all people will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." Now there's a lot of things Jesus could have said there. That hey, everyone will know you're my disciples if you have the best theology. And you can argue any point down to the and win every argument. That's not what he said. Now, doctrine's important. You want to know your Bible. But that's not how Jesus said people of the world will know you are his disciples. He could have said, they will know you're my disciples if you never miss church ever, and you have perfect attendance, and you wear a church t-shirt or something. That's not what he said. Church attendance is important. That's where you get to know people and your fellowship and the worship and the whole thing. But that's not how people will know you're his disciples. He could have said, people will know you're my disciples if you go and feed the homeless every day. Now, that's valuable. That's important. We talked about that in Matthew 25 just not long ago. But that's not what he said. He said people are going to know you're my disciples, that you're followers of me, right? If we treat each other, one another, within the church, they're talking about the church body here. If we treat each other with the kind of loving relationship where we're serving one another, taking care of each other, nurturing one another, where we love one another. Loving one another, that's the standard that Jesus gives us. That's the expectation that we have in how we interact with one another. It is love. And that implies some sort of relationship, doesn't it? I mean, you can't just blindly, I love everybody. I mean, you might have warm fuzzies and stuff, but we're talking about what's going on in people's lives. You interact with them a little bit in their lives. You know what's going on, so you take action when you know what's going on to help people, support them, encourage them, be there for them, that type of thing. We read about that in the early church in the book of Acts. In the first few chapters, where the people, the church was thousands strong at this point. But even though it was so large, the people had this great connectivity. They were so much loving each other that the people who weren't in the church were looking at them and going, man, what have they got going on? All their needs are being met. No one's going hungry. All these things are happening. They really love each other. There were even people in the church at this point where they had excess. So they would sell land and they would bring it to the apostles and they'd say, hey, we don't know everybody. We don't know everybody's needs. We don't know what's going on, but we have this extra money. You take this, and when a need comes up, you just help people. That's how much we love our brothers and sisters in Christ. That's what was going on in the first century church. And it was this intense love for one another in that early church that drew others into relationship to Jesus. They're like, we want part of that. Nobody else is like that, And how do you do that? Well, we follow Jesus. That's why we do that. And that drew people to Jesus because of the love of the saints to one another. They will know you're my disciples by the way you love each other. Now, I think one of the challenges of being like the first century church today, I mean, we're not the first century anymore, right? Time has marched on. Modern technology has impacted how we do relationships. I mean, things are different. Even if you're, 40 years old or younger, 30 years old, you can look back and say, man, things are different now than they were 5, 10, 15 years ago. Social media has impacted relationships. There are some benefits. I still keep in contact with some people who used to attend here and they maybe moved off to Florida or whatever to different states, and we can kind of keep in contact that way, family members and stuff. But there also are some unintended consequences that can be a little bit negative when it comes to technology and how we do relationships today. So here's 3 of them. We could probably come up with a bigger list, but here are 3 ways technology has changed relationships. And this isn't necessarily positive or negative. It's just what it is, right? Number 1 is that the term friend is evolving. Have you noticed how you use the word friend differently than maybe you did 10 years ago, 20 years ago? When I was growing up, a friend was someone you did life with, right? You went fishing with them or hunting or hiking or biking or whatever. You hung out together. You listened to music together. You talked. I mean, you just did life together. Today is a friend can be someone who you've never even met, but they still use the word friend. I was at Sam's Club a number of months ago, and some guy comes up to me and says, "Hey, Dan Hudson, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like, who are you? And he gave me his name. He goes, "Yeah, we're friends on Facebook." I'm like, I didn't know I had no clue who this guy was, right? But somehow we became friends on Facebook, and it was a nice, cordial conversation. But I'm like, wow. I mean, I couldn't have said, "Hey, there's my buddy over at Sam's Club." I didn't know who he was, but he knew me, from Facebook. We've changed a little bit how we use friend. It has evolved a little bit. I have a buddy who this past week did a funeral of a young gal, 43-year-old woman, and he said there were 6 eulogies. 4 of the 6 people who spoke at her funeral, who gave the eulogy, 4 of them actually had never met her before in person. They were Facebook friends. And I'm like, what? Really? I mean, that's where we're at in our society today. They've been Facebook friends for years, and he said one of them even drove like 3 hours to come to the funeral. They had never met before. The first time they met was at one of them's funeral. Friend, the word has evolved. Obviously, these women had some type of relationship, and it meant something to them for them to speak at the funeral, but it has changed. I read this week the average American Facebook user has 338 Facebook friends. Generally, I think the younger you are, the more friends you might have. Now, you're already thinking, hey, you're comparing, right, to average. That's just what the average is, whatever that means, right? The average American, they say, although only has 2, friends. Close friends, the person you really hang out with, the person you trust with your life and stuff you do things with. 338 people you call friend on Facebook, right? But those aren't the love one another relationships that Jesus is talking about here. The term friend is evolving. A second thing, again, that's not good or bad, or that's just what it is. It's different, right? Secondly, we're becoming addicted to immediate affirmation. In other words, I might feel a little bit lonely, a little bit down. I think, I'll take a selfie, and I'll post it online real quick, and I'll start getting immediate affirmation of that picture, of that post. I'll start getting some likes and maybe some comments about it. Just for fun, some of you have already mentioned this. I took a selfie at the first service and posted it. So it's only been up for an hour or so, and look at this. I've got 20 likes already. Troy Engeldinger says your face looks goofy. Kind of expected something like that. Another guy says you look great. Part 1 of quite okay. He's talking about the sermon series. Anyway, someone else. I wish I was there. Someone who's moved away. We are addicted to immediate affirmation. There is a chemical that is released in our brains when we go through this. That dopamine and that we become addicted to. Is like I feel lonely, so I post a picture. Someone likes it, and I go, they like me. Someone appreciates me. I'm not so lonely right now. And it's actually a chemical release that happens that we as society are becoming a little bit addicted to. I gotta have this feeling. Have you ever, you've probably all done this, right? You've posted something and you immediately spend like the next few hours going back and forth to see how many likes you got, how was it updated, what kind of things are people saying, I can't believe she said that, I can't believe he said that, this guy never likes my photo, I'm not gonna like his photo either. You kind of go through that whole thing. I think everybody has done that at some point. We want this immediate feedback. We're addicted to this. And what this is doing is it's meeting the short-term need of feeling liked, feeling like, hey, someone's with me, right? You got that chemical release. It's a short-term need being met, but it's deferring the longer, deeper need that we have to truly have meaningful relationships. We're pushing that off. Okay? We're not meeting that need. We're not going after that because we've got all these little short-term needs that we're using to fulfill it. Sociologists have phrased what they call deferred loneliness. We're lonely, we post something, we get immediate feedback, we feel good about the like. It meets that short-term need. But again, like I said, it's deferring the real need of the intimate relationship to the future. And sometimes that never happens. Sometimes it never happens because we keep deferring. So our desire in life is to get more and more likes. We post things, we phrase things in such a way to get likes. It's not even necessarily to share as much as we want the likes. We want the positive attention we can get from this. And it's driving how we handle our relationships. And it's actually delaying our ability to make positive, good, long-term relationships that we need. And that is, in those relationships, is where the loving people in a godly way really happens. We're delaying that. A third thing, we have the power to do friendship on our own terms. So somebody texts me, right? And I have the full power in what I do with that relationship. I can respond right away. I can ignore it. Okay? I can read it and think, well, I'll have to think about this, maybe respond later. Or I don't have time right now, I'll do it later. But we're in complete control of what I do or don't do in this relationship. Excuse me. Someone posts a picture on social media, and you think, you have now the power to either like that or not like it. You can say, boy, this is a picture of their kids, it really looks cute. Oh, they got a little jelly on their cheek, that's really cute, haha. Or you can say, nah, it's not worth my time to actually poke the like button on my phone or click on your computer if you do the PC. You have complete power in that. I get to show you what part of me I want you to see in social media. I show you the best parts. I show you the happy parts. I show you the parts that seem really great and exciting. You get to decide which parts of me you're going to pay attention to. The total control we have in social media. So if you post too many posts about a product that maybe you sell, and I think, I'm not really interested, I can kind of put you to the end of my friend list and posts that I see. Or if I don't agree with what you say on politics, or if I don't like pictures of your cat, whatever, I can actually go into our friendship and just like not follow you anymore. Okay? Now, we're still friends. I just don't follow. I don't want to see that. I don't want to mess with that. Right? It's messy to me. So I don't want to deal with it. Or you can get really extreme and you can actually unfriend someone, right? And they don't even know it. So you don't even have the conversation of say, I don't think I want to hang out with you anymore. You just say, unfriend, and they just disappear and they're gone. And it's kind of a shallow relationship going on from there. Excuse me. So that's kind of reality. That's just where we're at right now in the social media world and the technology world. So the question is, how do we love one another in that setting, in that context? How do we get beyond that? How do we as a church say we're going to be a family, right? We're going to be a community. We're going to care for one another. We're going to meet each other's needs. We're going to do whatever it takes to sacrifice one another and get beyond someone has a need, like, praying, enter. You can pray or not. We don't even know, right? How do we get beyond that? Well, there's a couple things, and they're painfully simple, but they're so important, and we have to I think as modern people really discipline ourselves in this. Because even if you intend to be this way, as I'll show you in a few moments, most of us aren't. We have to consciously remind ourselves these two things. The first thing is, again, real simple, be present. If you're going to love someone, excuse me, you need to be present in their life. I mean, you need to be part of their life. Paul said in Romans 12, let love be genuine. Genuine, right? Real. Love one another with brotherly affection. Outdo one another in showing honor. Contribute to the needs of the saints and seek to show hospitality. In other words, don't pretend to love someone. Don't kind of love someone. Don't just digitally love someone. You genuinely love them. When people are in need, be ready to actually help them, to actually show up at their doorstep. Lift them up when they're down. Carry them when they're weak. Be present in their lives. There are times a text message and a sad emoji aren't enough, right, for what someone's going through. Oh, times there are. Somebody has plenty. Had a bad day. Oh, I'm sorry. Sad face. Send. But there are times we need more than that. And if followers of Jesus are called to step it up a notch, to get really involved in people's lives, they're really part of each other's lives, we have to take action. We have to be present in their lives. We have to love one another. Like I say, sometimes a text is perfect, but many times it's not. Sometimes you have to get in your car and go to their house and text them then, by the way, I'm here. Open your door. I've come to visit you. You need a hug. You need someone to cry with you. You need someone to pray with you. I'm here. I'm present. I'm present. And you don't have to have all the answers. None of us do. None of us do. You don't have to have all the right words. You don't have to be able to counsel them through every situation or to know the way out of all the tough situations. You just have to have the ability to be present. You don't have the ability to raise the dead and heal all the broken hearts. Your God does. He does. You can pray for them. Who knows what he'll do. But you don't have that power. What we have is our presence. What we have is the presence of God in us when we go and be with someone in their life, loving people. Now, I know the common thought is people go into ministry because of the big bucks, right? I mean, the big dollar's going to be a preacher, right? But the real reason people tend to go into ministry, full-time, like preaching, pastoral ministry, is that they love people, right? They want to help people. We want to fix people that are broken. We want to fix marriages that are suffering. We just want to fix everything. That's the heart of anybody I ever known who's ever been in preaching ministry, in any type of ministry, right? In church ministry. And I can't tell you, though, well, that's my heart. That's what I want to do. I can't tell you how many times I have left situations over the years, and I thought I had nothing really good to say. I mean, I'm not that guy, right? I can't say, well, you just need to do these three things, and you're going to be great. That's not me. I can think back to, well, if you would have done this, this, and this, but I don't say that out loud because I think it's too late for that. I don't want to rub your nose in it. I can tell you what you should have avoided. But I don't have great words. Or I will fumble through a pathetic, weak prayer with someone who's his need, and then I'll leave the situation and I was like, man, are you serious? I mean, what a loser. Like, what, really? I mean, that's it? That's all you got? You've been doing this for all these years, and that's it? What happens often, though, is later on, someone will then pull me aside, and I've heard tons of stories, this isn't just me, right? They'll pull someone aside and say, I just want to thank you for coming. You just said the right thing, right? Thinking, I didn't really say anything, I talked about potato chips and, I mean, really, I did nothing great. But they're like, we just want to thank you for saying the right stuff. I want to thank you for providing that great counsel. It really helped us, really saved our situation we were in. You really gave us exactly what we needed at that moment. All I gave them was our presence. See? Your presence is so powerful to people. So powerful. Loving people. Be present in their lives. They don't need your perfectly worded text message. You spend an hour and a half trying to get the right words together, or email, or Facebook Messenger, whatever. They don't need that great message in a crisis. They need you. They need you. Be present in people's lives. That's how love happens. That's how we share and relationships happen. You're with people. You're present. Secondly, be engaged. So this is beyond just being physically present, because you can be present with someone and not be there, right? I mean, we've all done that too. Don't just be physically present. Be emotionally, spiritually engaged and present. 1 Peter 4:8 says, above all, keep loving one another earnestly. He's talking to the church, right? Guys, love one another earnestly. I think he means more than like each other's puppy pictures, but you love each other earnestly, a deep spiritual engagement. I am all in with you, right? I am here 100% for you. How often do you go out with people, or do you sit at a restaurant and see like a whole table of people where people are all together and like not one of them are talking, They're all looking at their phones or their iPads or whatever. They're like totally engaged in social media, and you kind of think, well, you could have done that privately at home and saved a lot of money. Or, really, you're not really together here at all, are you? They're not even present at all. I mean, it happens probably too often. You get maybe distracted by a text or a Facebook post, or, a little notification. Oh, somebody else liked my selfie I posted a few minutes ago. I better check that out, see what they said, right? We all do this. This past week, I'm in Omaha for a couple days with a group of pastors that, like I said, these are all guys who love people, right? I mean, they absolutely love people. And that's why they got in this. They want to help people and fix people and pray for people and all that, the whole thing. Okay. And one of the guys says, hey, I've got this prayer request. And he starts explaining a situation where he's in fear for his life, literally, and for his family, the life of his family. He has saved a girl out of sex trafficking and somehow got her out of the home where she had been put, right, for a number of years. She has this gal now, and she's in a safe place. And the guy whose home she was at, he's been known to have murdered one person in his front yard once. Okay, so murder's not beyond him. In the last 3 years, whatever, he had at least 2 houses he's burned down while the families were in there because they crossed him for whatever reason. This gal, this young woman who was the victim of the sex trafficking, she has testified. I don't know if it's gone to that level. She has told authorities that at some point a few years ago, she became pregnant, and they tied her to a pole and beat her until she gave birth to the child so they could put her back into the trafficking that was going on. And he said this week, the investigation is going to go to a new level, and he's going to find out that this guy himself was the one who lured her out and got her out and saved her from this deal. And he's just like, guys, I'm headed out of town in a couple of months. I'm going to be gone for a couple of weeks in this mission trip. And I got my family at home, just pray for me, pray for my family, pray for. He's telling the story. It's an amazing story, right? And I look around, and this is actually taken like a half hour earlier, right? So this isn't the actual photo, but this is exactly what I saw. This is what I saw. You got a guy on his phone over on the left. The guy in the chair in the center there, he's the one telling the story. I'm on my phone while I'm eating a cookie because I'm a healthy guy. And this other guy was actually searching some stuff. He wanted to buy something online. He was looking over here. This guy looks like he's snoozing. He's really not, but he kind of half was. We were just kind of joking, trying to decide. There was a couple other guys roaming around. And I'm just kind of like, wow. Here's this guy pouring out his heart to a bunch of guys who do this for a living. I mean, we do care. It's not like these aren't heartless guys. Trust me, I've heard stories from all of them. They're not heartless guys. And we weren't engaged. We weren't engaged. Like, to one of our brothers. Now, a couple others hours later, we actually prayed for him. Like, oh, by the way, yeah, someone pulled out of a hat. We need to pray for this guy in this situation. And we prayed for them. contentment. We stayed at the house of a guy who's a vice president for the railroad, and that's just his man room. Okay, that's not even the living room that's anyway. I could go on with that, but I won't. Pretty great guy. We just have to be engaged in people's life, but be present, but also engaged. It's so critical. We are called to earnestly love. That's what Peter said, earnestly love people. And we desire to be earnestly loved back, but we tend to miss people right in front of us, often because of social media. My daughter, Shanna, is a lifeguard over at the Clive pool, and every summer she tells stories of like moms who are at the pool with their toddlers and they're on their phone. And as a lifeguard, they're like, okay, keep an eye on this one, because mom's facing this way, the pool's back there, and their toddler's behind them. And before you know it, it's going to blow the whistle, jump in the pool and save this toddler who's in the deep end, sinking to the bottom and can't swim because mom's over here. Oh, what's going on? What if they like my selfie of me and my child? Happens all the time out there. And they had no clue. It just happens all the time. We're missing our children. How many times have you been around dinner and you're more engaged with what's going on, your phone or your iPad, than you are the kids that are sitting around the table? You're missing your children. We're losing out of relationships of neighbors who live right next to us. We're losing out of relationships in this very room because, well, we know them on Facebook. That's good enough, right? I don't need to really engage more, right? I told them I liked their puppy picture. Do I need to talk to them? I told them I was praying. Do I need to really pray with them? Do I need to really follow up and see how things are going? In situation, here's the deal. Maybe it's time to turn off our cell phones for a while. Maybe you need to have just an off zone for your family. Supper time, dinner time, we just turn our phones off, right? At a certain hour of the night, we're just turning it off. I know some of you have work-related stuff, and they say you can't turn it off, but I don't know, figure that out. But certainly you can manage that so you're not like losing your family because you're on the phone. It can be hard to get a hold of me sometimes because when I'm with somebody, it doesn't matter who it is, you're the only person in my world right then. Okay? I turn my ringer off, put it in my pocket. Sometimes I'll leave it in my car even, especially if I'm checking my likes. I don't want to be tempted. Leave it behind, right? And sometimes I'll actually forget to turn it back on. So hey, call me, leave a message, text me. I'll get back to you. But know when I get back to you, you're the only person right then, right? I mean, you have to do it that way. You got to put boundaries for yourself. 1 John 3:18, John says, little children, let us not love in word or talk, but in deed and in truth. Don't just pray for people, pray with them. Hey, I got this thing going on. Praying. Okay, I do that all the time because I want to encourage them, let them know I really am praying, right? I never put that unless I prayed, right? I don't just randomly put it. But maybe go pray with them. Or next time you see them, pull them aside and really pray with them. The skeptical people in the first century saw the love of the first century church, and they were just like blown away. Blown away. Just like Jesus said, they knew they were followers because of their love. They saw it. They saw it in people. And maybe one advantage of our society being the way it is right now is it shouldn't be too hard to recognize Christ followers. Not because of the t-shirt you wear or the stance you take, but because you're actually involved and engaged in people's lives. You actually care. You're loving people. And when they see something in you that is so remarkably different than the people around them and the rest of society, that they'll ask at some point, what is this? Why do you like that? And you can look at them and just simply tell them, that's what Jesus people do. I'm a Jesus person. That's how we are. Go out and love people this week. Would you stand with me? Let's pray together.